Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, where you are in the world. This is Mark Nias. Another episode of Sea Stories. Sea Stories is a new podcast where veterans, service members, active or retired, they share their a memorable military story. Today we have a very special guest, also a celebrity. If you watched PBS's show called Carrier, where they were on the U.S.S. Nimitz during their deployment, you also saw this person. I had the pleasure of serving with Senior Chief Garcia when I was in Lemoore, my very first duty station, stationed out in the Central California in the San Joaquin Valley. Had orders to go to California, thought I was going to Southern California, and didn't realize that I was in the middle of Green Acres. Ladies and gentlemen, we have retired Senior Chief Mike Garcia here on Sea Stories. How you doing?
Good. Glad to be here.
Thanks, man. Thanks for taking the time to be on the show. And like I said, he was my supervisor at my very first duty station. Can you just give a description of Lemoore, man, for the listeners? This is a very unique place. Very unique place.
It's right in the middle of nowhere. It's a few miles off of I-5. You never see it. You never see Lemoore. Let's see. They used 198, which came off of I-5 to go to Lemoore. That's where they filmed The Desolate Area for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the movie with Steve Martin. And then
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they used the cornfields out there. Is where they buried Joe Pesci in Goodfellas, I think it was, or Goodfellas or Casino. One of the two. They buried him out in the cornfield. But yeah, I mean, it was the base was right in the middle of all the farm fields. Remember that? We had top dusters, and we had to make sure they go up. And it was in the heart of where pretty much where they grow a lot of their fruits and vegetables out there, because a lot of the canneries were out there for the tomatoes.
Man, you know what? And that's the first place I saw a crop duster. And I was driving on the 198. I saw the crop duster flying low towards me, and I swerved. Thought the plane was going to hit me. And then somebody was like, man, that's a crop duster. What are you doing? That was my first time ever seeing one of them.
Yeah, they were a trip.
Man, so you served 26 years in the United States Navy.
Yeah, I did.
So what was life before you joined the Navy, and what made you decide to enlist in the United States Navy?
I was in college. I was going to UTEP. I was born and raised in El Paso. And I was going to college, and to be honest with you, I was really bored. I made a mistake. I took a 7:30 class, and I had a poli-sci class. So I really never went to class. I was always up in the library, third floor, first couch on the right after you came off the elevators, and I would sleep, and I just didn't know what to do, and I was really bored with a lot of stuff. So I went to go see a recruiter, and at first I was going to go in by myself on just as a reservist, and then a good friend of mine wanted to join too, so we both went in together in the buddy program. I ended up enlisting straight at going active duty without doing the reservist thing. It's just I had no idea. I told my dad, and my dad was mad at me for quite some time, actually, because he wanted me to be the first one, to go to college and graduate and everything else, but I just had no idea, and he was paying. My dad tells me I made the biggest adult decision because I was just wasting his money. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so that's how I ended up in the Navy.
Wow! And then how did you choose air traffic control? Because I know me prior going into the military, as much with a lot of people, there's a misconception of what air traffic controller actually is. So how did you find out about the job and choose that rate?
This is actually kind of funny because I was going into the Navy. I wanted to be an AW. I wanted to be a rescue swimmer. Well, when I got into boot camp, because I went to boot camp in San Diego.
Okay.
So and when I had to go to reclassification, because for some reason I couldn't end up going to AW school. There was a wait or something, so they told me to pick something else. So. And you're talking 1988 here, okay?
Okay.
So I went back to the barracks, and we were sitting there in the middle of shining our boots, and I'll never forget the guy's name. He was from Wisconsin. His name was Calsa. And I looked at him, and I said, hey, man, what does that guy in the radar room do in Top Gun? And he goes, "That's an air." He goes, "Traffic control." I said, "That's what I want to do." So that's what I went and told the classification guy I wanted to be an air traffic controller. I had never looked it up or nothing, and I literally got it off of Top Gun.
Yeah.
It's ironic because Top Gun had come out 2 years before that. So that's why I picked air traffic control. Man, it was totally up because of a movie.
You know what? That's crazy because both of my parents were in the military, and that's how I found out about air traffic control. My dad was a senior chief recruiter, and he was like, "What about being the air traffic controller?" And I'm thinking air traffic controller is the guy with the things in his hands that push back the airplane or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to be that. And he knew I'm a fan. Like, Top Gun is what got me into military, Navy aviation. Yeah. And he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna show you what air traffic controller does." And he showed me the video of when Tom Cruise buzzed the tower, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I could do that."
Yeah, and everybody liked to say the phrase, negative ghost rider patterns fool. We all knew that was once we got him, became air controllers. Laugh.
Wow, and you did a total of 26 years and retired senior chief, man. That's congratulations, man. That's wow. So,
Thank you, but if you would have told me that when I was in the Navy, I would have kicked you. I'll be honest.
Yeah. So I know with the 26 years, and I'm pretty sure you did a lot of deployments within those 26 years. What are your memorable sea stories that you have to share?
There's so many. I mean, we used to get he said, I came in 1988, I was listening to your last podcast you were talking to. Is that Mark Holden? Was it what? His name?
Matt Holden. Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys were talking about, how he felt old because when somebody came and talked to him, and you joined the Navy, what, 97, 98 is when you joined the Navy, right?
Yeah. 1996. Yep.
Yeah. So, so I joined the Navy in 1988. It was still the Cold War, Vietnam had just ended in 75. So a lot of guys still in the Navy were from Vietnam, So imagine I feel a little old so I had the pleasure of being on Adak, Alaska. That was my first duty station. Believe it or not, I loved it. Never been to Alaska, and crazy stuff. Crazy times out there. I remember a lot of times where coming at night, we're going fishing or whatnot. Hey, we lived all the way on the other side of the airfield. Well, the quickest way is through the airfield, at night. So what we would do is just cut across the airfield, cut across to get to our barracks. And I wasn't there when it happened, but I know had this guy, Willie he had like a little Suzuki Samurai.
Oh, I remember that. That was my first car. Yeah, I remember the Suzuki Samurai. Easy to flip. Yeah, looked like a little box. Yeah, okay.
Well, you're gonna laugh at this. He's rolling across the runway, and the arresting gear we have is E28, but back then we had an E5 arresting gear too, which is it's just the cable that's on big old anchor chain.
Wow.
Well, you remember what happened to him? And we had little like donuts that would keep it raised, right? So he hit it and flipped his Suzuki stack, onto the side.
Oh, wow.
So him and he was my roommate at the time. He got out and they flipped this truck over, but you still had all the fog, all the glass on the runway. So a good friend of ours was the Navy H and the fire, because back then the fire department did the sweeping. So they called him. There he was at 10 o'clock at night out there sweeping the runway to clean it up. Nobody ever knew about it. Nobody ever knew what happened, but it was kind of one of those where sailors would be sailors, sailors get in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
You know how it is when you get bored. You find something to do, and we used to do some crazy stuff in Alaska. I mean, we still had beer machines in the barracks, so we'd go to the club and do whatever you want, and come back and, hey, let's keep drinking. Well, I ran out of beer. Well, guess what? I got dollar bills. You kept dollar bills in your drawer like you were going to a strip bar or something, but it was for the beer machines.
So back then they had beer machines in the barracks?
Yeah, it was a Coke machine. It was a Coke machine. Matter of fact, we had one in A school. Because I went to A school in Millington, Tennessee. Barracks South 420 is where we were at. Yeah.
Wow. Man, they didn't have that Lemoore.
No, cause that's about the time they started trying to desensitize all the alcohol and stuff, and the military. But when I first joined, it was kind of like, hey, you work hard, you party hard, and Oh boy, did I! I did my fair share in all my duty stations. To be honest with you, uh, especially when you go out to sea. It is when you go out to sea. You're on the ship. You're on the body dick.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember going on the Nimitz. I was on Nimitz twice. I was in Nimitz. I went to the Nimitz from '94 through '98, and then '02, '06. I spent a lot of time on her, and I got to do 4 or 5 cruises on her, and man, I remember going out and we were stationed. There was this one time. It's really weird, but we were out of Bremerton, Washington, so we would have to go down to San Diego.
Yeah,
and we'd have to get underway to go to San Diego, get the air wing to go work out there, off the coast out there. Well, we pull into San Diego. Hey, we'd only been out to sea for 3-4 days, dude. But you pull into San Diego, it's like, hey, it's party time,
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
So we'd end up at Dick's Last Resort, just drinking away, and they're finally trying to cut you off. Hey, we got to cut you off. Who's driving? Hey, public transportation. We take cab. You know how that is.
Yeah.
Had to talk to our families, but we're coming back from partying and we're in a cab, and there's a guy sitting on my lap, and because you remember we used to pack into cabs, how cheap we were, you pack 60 cab to get you back, but well, he says, man, I gotta puke. I said, use your glass. He had the glass room, and he threw up in the glass, and it started to spill on my leg.
Oh man.
And we were right before the Coronado Bridge, right? We had just got over the Coronado Bridge because he couldn't stop on top of it. Cab driver gets out, lets us off. Remember where the toll booths used to be, and then you go straight down. There's a little neighborhood to the right there.
Yeah.
He let us off right there, kicked us out of the cab. Well, I'm a sympathy puker, man. So I get out.
You caught it.
Yeah. I just start going to town. Took my shirt off, found somebody's water hose, so we're wetting each other down. So we had to walk all the way from the Coronado Bridge all the way to the boat, And you know how it is when you get to the boat, you got to request permission to come aboard. Oh, my boy couldn't even talk. He couldn't even talk. So we both get on with me and a good friend of mine, Bobby. We get on the other side of him, and I said, "You hold his ID up, and I'll talk for him." So he held his ID up, and I kind of looked over to the side, and I said, "Request permission to come aboard." And then us all three go, So I had to walk him to his rack. Oh man, but that was just one of those weird times. Is you're still drunk, but how can you think of that to get somebody on board the boat?
Oh yeah, ingenuity, quick thinking.
Oh, now you can't do that. Now you're going to mass, but it's kind of, we're all friends. Of course, on deployment, how it is. You're with each other 24/7. You're with each other more times than when you are with your families.
Yeah.
And you get that bond, that brotherly bond, and then when women came on board, because I was on ships with both without women and then with women, so you get that bond, so you fight with each other all the time, but the practical jokes that you play on each other, you guys, how that is.
Oh yeah, I remember when we were in Lemoore, the keys. Then we put somebody's keys in they put the car keys in like ice and put it in the freezer.
Kind of things like that. I was at sea, and we had been out to sea. When it gets to the ship, crews turn over all the time. Well, it's a bunch of the new guys going out, and we're out we're on cruise, and this had to be, I think, 95 cruise, and we got a box in the mail, and then a friend of mine says, "Hey, look, we got a box." So it's from 2 other guys who used to be on the boat. We just read this letter, and it goes, "Hey, put the brownies on the plot table so everybody can have."
Yeah.
The bottom of the note says, "P.S. Tell Mike and Bob not to eat the brownies." So they came and told us not to eat the brownies. So there's only 4 of us that didn't eat the brownies. Everybody else scarfed them up. Let me tell you what. They made those brownies with, I think they said 4 or 5 boxes of chocolate X-Lax.
Oh, man.
That's a cruel practical joke, but at the time you're like, who, and everybody asked, did you get sick? Nope, I didn't, because I didn't eat them, well, why didn't you eat them? So, I don't know. You know, you're not going to sit there until I was pre-warned. You know how that works, you know. But
Yeah,
it was,
yeah.
you know, that's kind of, you know, it is just the things that you do in during cruise to, well, that was, you don't do that to each other on cruise, but, you know, that was just one of the things that happened. But, you know, I did a lot of other things, you know, where you get there. You remember how the ships, you know, we used to go to the walkabouts. We used to do this to the new kids. This was before hazing was really bad. We take the new kids, you know, and we would start walking forward. You know, we'd start in the hangar bay and then we'd go up. On the carrier, we'd go all the way forward. We'd go up by the anchor windlass and stuff and start going quicker and quicker, going up and down ladders and through berthings. Mm-hmm. Well, eventually we got fast enough to where we lost the guy who was following us, which happened to be one of the new guys. So here we go. We get back to Catsy. We're sitting in there. We're waiting for him to come back. Man, 2 hours had gone by. The guy hadn't come back. We finally find him. He goes, I've been walking around this in a circle for 2 hours because we lost him. We used to call it walkabout, you know. So he didn't know how his way to get back, you know, because he kept running into the same berthings, same ladder wells.
Yeah.
He didn't realize, you know, that there's those ladder wells that go all the way down to the hangar bay, and they'll get you to wherever you need to go. But, you know, it's kind of things like that. After you're at sea for a while, man, you know, them days for me are gone. But there's a lot of my first cruise. I would say my first 2 cruises are a blur.
Oh,
you know, pulling into port.
Yeah.
You know,
I actually went to do you remember Seneca Hall? He's like
Master Chief Seneca Hall. Yes,
Master Chief. So we both went to the Bonhomme Richard together outside of Lemoore. He went to the ship before me, but I remember he took care of me on the ship. When I first got on the ship, we were like in Bahrain, and our first port that we hit was in Thailand.
Oh yeah.
And in Thailand, I got wasted. I remember I was drinking, and our supervisor was like, Petty Officer AC-1 Welsh was like, Seneca, make sure he gets on the boat tomorrow. I ain't got that drunk. So when you say, and that was my introduction to the ship. I got to San Diego, was in TPU for a little while. They flew me out to the ship in Bahrain. First port we hit, Thailand, I got wasted. And then, like you said, the rest of that cruise coming back was a blur. So yeah, I could relate.
And then a good port to be introduced into Thailand. You guys went to Pattaya or you go to Phuket?
Oh, we were in Phuket.
Oh yeah, you guys went to the resort because you're a small boat.
Yeah.
So we had to go to Pattaya, and I tell you what, you never, even Phuket's the same way. I mean, for sure, you see things that you never even heard of.
Oh yeah.
You know, you see things you never heard of. You're like, whoa, you know, does that stuff really happen? Pattaya had this bar called the Carousel Bar, and it turned really, really slow. You know, you could barely, and when you're drinking there, you didn't feel it. But let me tell you what, when you were drunk, whew, that was the fastest ride you ever been on, and you're trying to time your jump. You know, I actually jumped off that stupid bar and I fell down, flat on my face because I was just. I don't even know how I got back to. I stayed in a hotel, you know, but I didn't. We had to pull out. We were getting Liberty launched a lot of times, so man, we used to watch on Liberty launch just sit there, you know, bashing their heads because they're so drunk they can't even hold up their heads, you know. And it's in sailors are being sailors. I mean, beer days. You remember beer days?
Yeah, we had a beer day. Yeah, we were out to sea like for 49 days, and we had a beer day, 2 beers. I remember that.
Yeah, I always had. I got lucky on ships. I made a lot of friends, so my 2 beers turned into 6 and 7. You know, because I had the hookup with the beers and stuff. You know, especially my last cruise because my last cruise I was the surface warfare coordinator for the ship. You know, so a lot of people had it would be favors. You know how that is. You know how the boat works.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
it's a barter system, man. It's the barter system, and it's it's a shock. You know, if you're a civilian, it's hard for you to relate to kind of the stuff that happens on the boat. But, you know, we still trade. Remember all the trading that would go on?
Oh yeah, if you knew somebody in supply, you had the hookup.
Oh yeah, boots. To get boots. you know, and you'd be surprised what 5 pounds of coffee could get done for you, you know.
Yeah.
But we did that. We had we had this guy, God rest his soul, Clint Bates. He was he passed away a few years ago, and me and him were on the Nimitz in the '90s, and man, you want to talk about? I could tell Clint, we could be out at sea, and I'd say, "Hey, Clint, man, I need a '57 Chevy. I got it for you," you know, and stuff would magically appear, you know.
Yeah.
Because he had the charisma to where he would talk, you know, he could talk to people. I remember one time we're doing Hoover Hummer ops, so we're doing flat ops late. So it's like 2:00 in the morning, you know, and all of us have been we've been working all day and all night. And we turn around, Clint, should be nice if we had some donuts and some milk. Then this guy go down to the mess decks, put on a hat, walk in there, grab a tray of donuts and a 5-gallon jug of milk and came up to Kansas. And we said, how did you get that? Anybody ask you? He said, nope. Just put a hat on, act like you know what you're doing, go get it. Nobody ever tell you anything.
Wow.
This dude was, he was the coolest dude ever because, Catfish would call him, you know. He if whatever you needed, Clint would get you. You know. And he's one of those crafty dudes, man. Hey, I need this guy. Got it, you know. Even funny stories with that guy. He was just one of those guys that was just hilarious all the time. You know, you have that one guy in your division, always that one guy that can make everybody laugh no matter what. And
you needed that comic relief on the ship too, especially being out to sea for so long.
Oh yeah. You know, you're over here at sea 100 days, man. This stuff gets old. You know, it's like what is it? That movie Groundhog Day.
Oh yeah.
It's like Groundhog Day.
And I said, I tell some of my friends, I'm like, you know, there was a little aspect of Oz. You know, remember that show Oz?
Yeah.
Some of the Oz reminded me of being on the ship. So.
Yeah, prison rules applied. Yeah. It kind of seemed like being in prison, though, a little bit. You know, it's like when you transferred, that was your parole date, that was your release date. You know, that's what you knew. You know, because remember when you come off deployment, all your stuff stinks. You know, it just smells like the boat. You can't get that boat smell away from you. You know, but
strategy.
Man, I had some good times, and we had some hard times too. You know, I got to meet a lot of people during my 26 years. You know, I was all the way from Alaska to the ship twice, and in Corpus Christi, Kingsville. I went down to South Texas twice, and I went to Diego Garcia. Man, love that island. Love Diego Garcia. I'm telling you that right now. Man, that was such an awesome island. I was a senior chief when I went there. I was the ATCFO and the leading chief for ops, and it was only me and another the master chief and myself, and one other senior chief. There was 2 senior chiefs and a master chief. We were the 2 highest ranking people there. We had a chief's mess of I think about 10, but man, I'm going to talk about having fun. I mean, they talk about drinking. Oh man, everything was $2 there, Mark. Everything was $2.
I can imagine being on that island. It's like, man, ain't that? It's like in the Pacific, right? South Pacific.
It's in the Indian Ocean. It's 1,000 miles south of India. It's a British island. It's a British Indian Ocean territory. When the Australians would come from Afghanistan, that we were the middle point. So they would stop there, stay the night and whatnot, you know. But it was owned by the Brits, so the Brits owned the island. So we did things with the Brits all the time. You know, we put colors up when we did colors. You know, the funny thing, we always went first. We always put our colors up first, you know, and we'd always take it down first. And you know, we folded our flag very traditional. You know, we did everything by the book. You know, you know, everything respecting the flag and our country. You know, and man, the Brits, they wore these their tropic attire was like. I'm short. It looked like running shorts, man. It looked like in 4-inch shorts.
Girls wear short shorts.
Yeah. And they were khaki, you know. They had a khaki button-down shirt with it, you know. And they would wear Sperry's, man. That was their uniform, you know. And this beret, and they would take down this flag, and all they would do is roll it up and shove it in a little cubby, you know. So you'd sit there and watch these guys. Most of these guys were in the morning, man. We're still drunk and sitting here doing colors. Yep. Yeah, man, they wore those short shorts, you know, and it was kind of like, man, Yeah, you tell a couple guys, don't be sitting down. Watch how you sit down because I don't see nothing from underneath.
I don't want to see something. I got you. Oh
my
wow.
my next door neighbor was the Royal Marine Sergeant Major, so he was in charge of the boys there. But he was Scottish, so whenever they did formal uniform stuff, he wore a kilt. He'd wear a kilt. We had one guy. What do you wear under your kilt? Well, if you have to ask what you wear under a kilt, then you don't really want to know. Oh. It's like, hey, you're right. And he tells me, he says, "Oh, do you want me to get you a kilt, mate?" No, I said, I'm good. I'm good. They look nice and all, but I'm all right. And but again, cool people. The Brits. They were a little weird, but they had a Brit club. Remember how everything had a Navy club, and then, we had a Navy club that would shut down at 2:00 in the morning. The Brit club would open up about midnight.
Wow.
And the Brit club would stay open until the last person left.
Wow, it would stay until the last person left, no matter what time.
Yeah, one time I did it till 7:00 in the morning. We were still there drinking, and I see the Brits passed out, so I took a picture, and I took a picture of the sailors. It was my division. Everybody's still partying. My department, everybody's still partying. So I saw the Sergeant Major. I said, "Man, I thought you Brits could handle your liquor." And he's all, "We can't." I said, "Really?" I said, "We all did."
I wonder if this is part of Yui's strategy.
Drink 'em. And he comes up to me and says, "That'll never happen again, mate. So tonight, you be there again tonight." It's like, man, I can't do this 2 nights in a row. I'm getting old. Coming in at 8:00 in the morning, it was hard, but it was hard, but it was fun, because that's how we surpassed the time. We had some good times like that in Lemoore too.
Oh yeah. No, I remember. What was the name? They had closed down Squiggly's native Area 51, but there was another place. I remember because I was actually roommates with Blake Wood, but we were in a different. I think we had like the 2 shifts, right? The morning shift and the night shift. So the time that I was working the night shift, I got off, and I forget the name of the place. It was on Main Side. It was like a little bar. And the guys that were working the morning shift were still there drinking. I'm like, you guys.
Oh, yeah. It was that little one over there that had the little pool. They had the pool right attached. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember the name of that one too. Yeah, we used to do that, or we used to go drinking with Lincoln out in town. We had to buy the pennies, and we would sit out there and drink. We had some fun time there. A lot of, big and softball in Lemoore. You remember that? Everybody.
Yeah.
That was the thing with Senior Chief Stevens and them, and I was on the boat with those guys. I was in Lemoore with them before. I mean, before Lemoore, I was on the ship with them. I was on Nimitz with them.
Oh, okay. Oh, speaking of Nimitz, before I forget, the Carrier. How was that experience, man? Being on the reality show, Carrier.
It was pretty cool. It was cool. It had some fun moments. When they came into CATSI and they said, well. Because the first night they just came in to observe, and I was the CATSI chief at the time, and our Divo was Sue Beckman, man, most awesome person in the world, man. She took care of us like we were children,
Mm-hmm.
And if you needed something, Sue would help you. But they came in, they saw the rapport that we had with each other and stuff like that, so they were doing Sue at first, and then they decided to mic me up as well.
Yeah,
and so. You were always mic'd up, and sometimes CATSI just gets really, really hairy,
Yeah, tense. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So sometimes, I would say, I was thinking to myself afterwards, I was like, man, don't cuss. But, sometimes they just had to because things were just going crazy, and the PAO used to watch the footage after at night, approve it whether they can go or not, Then the captain would see it. Well, it was really cool because they followed a lot of people around, and you always knew the things that there was real life was going to come out on this one,
Yeah.
So, I had a lot of fun with it, and we would just do dumb things like we would turn the music on in between recoveries to try and get back the flow, and then you're talking 03. Or no, it'd be 04, 05.
Yeah.
So, the music back then, I told everybody, okay, bring up your songs, and whatnot, and we're a bunch of grown men and women, so we didn't have to use censored music, that we're playing in there, So of course, I would do the country and rock thing all the time, and then I had people come. I'd bring in a couple songs, so we'd have, and then dude, I put up a disco light in Catsy, a disco light and some other lights. So during recovery, we would turn on this disco lights and turn the music up loud, and then people dancing. I think there's footage of that on.
Yeah, they were dancing Motown Philly, and the disco light was going. Yeah.
Hey, that was my song there. That was my song. I'm a big Boyz II Men fan. but it was so funny. But that's the stuff they used to do, man. And that was Sean Russell and Chris Yates. They did that all the time. They get it there and they do their old dancing thing. Well, you know what? They would take that out when we were in town, dude. They would do the same thing. Same thing. They didn't care. Maybe they were in San Diego. We were on deployment, but you saw that. That's the kind of fun we used to have, And then the one part they had was pitching deck.
Yeah,
the pitching deck. Pitching decks aren't fun on carriers to begin with, And we were on our way to Australia. That's where we were going, and I came in, and I really wasn't, because we only had 2 months left to cruise, so I was already training the guys because I was leaving, so I had to let them work. For the first part, you see me sitting there with Sue, and we're talking. At first, we were just talking. I was just playing, because I wasn't supposed to be working, but I was still mic'd up because I was sitting there with Sue, and that's just the thing they did me and Sue all the time.
Yeah.
So, it was a 12-plane recovery. That's what it was. And so I sat there and I'm watching. I'm making sure the soup's doing what they need to do. Well, we get the first 3 back and we're okay. I think it was the fourth or fifth one we got back. And that's when Sue says, you need to get in there. You need to get in there. And it wasn't because the soup wasn't doing was wrong. I just had the most experience.
Yeah.
So I get in there, we cleaned it up, but it wasn't me. It was everybody on that team. Everybody did an amazing job, and you only get to see little bits of it on the documentary. But you saw it. The intensity level in that room that night was so high. Your adrenaline was going. My adrenaline was just going through the roof. Because you got all this, and you're blue water, so you don't have these planes can't go anywhere but the ship.
Yeah, exactly.
If not, there's a pilot going swimming, and you're putting, $45-50 million in the water.
Yeah,
and that's taxpayer money. You don't want to be doing that. But and they launched we had a couple tankers that launched because we were getting low on gas and stuff like that. Well, because we were just getting them back. It was a hairy night, but I will tell you what, that crew that we had in that room were so very professional, and some amazing people that did the job. I mean, that everybody did their job, and we were able to put that night away. And everybody, and the biggest thing that I used to always tell everybody is, didn't matter whether we had a good night or a bad night. Is everybody going to bed in their own rack tonight?
Yeah.
Answer was yes. That means every pilot was getting back. He was going back to bed in his own rack. So guess what? Whether we had a bad night or not, we still had a good day because everybody came home.
Yeah, that's one thing we say. Like, hey, nobody died, so
yeah. And then that crew that I was with, that crew, Mark. I mean, there was some awesome people. There was some awesome people, some great workers. Larry Stokes was out there, and Charles Camp. I call him Chip. Charles. He was my roommate out in town, and John Darcy was out there with John Darcy was out there with me.
Yeah, I remember Darcy. Yeah, he was stationed in Lemoore too with this.
Yeah, Bishop was out there with me too. Bishop and Corey Miller.
Oh, Matt Bishop.
Jared Bishop.
Okay, Bishop. Yeah, and I remember Corey Miller. Yeah, I remember Miller. Okay.
Yeah, they were with me too. They came out too, so it was cool. We had all these people that I knew from Lemoore. But man, I had a great crew. That cruise was really weird because everywhere you went, you saw the microphone, you saw the camera crew. They were in everything. They were in everything. The only thing the captain wouldn't let them film is Chief's our Chief stuff, because I made Chief that cruise, so he didn't let him film, and he didn't let him film Wog Day.
Oh yeah, WOG day.
Our skipper, our skipper said, hey, we're WOGs, so we're crossing the equator, so we are doing this and nobody's filming it,
Yeah.
because he wanted a good time within parameters, So the funny thing, dude, I was going through chief initiation at the time, and I was down in the mess, and I was getting yelled at, and I was getting beat up, man. It's just because I just say nothing is right,
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get up, and this was right before. This was like a few nights before he got pinned, and so I had to get up and say something about my sponsor, what I know about my sponsor and stuff like that. So it was a senior chief, it was our LCPO, and so I get up there and say, "Oh, my senior chief has taught me this, and that." We go through, and then they're like, "All right, some of them are all," and of course, I'm getting called the butt kisser and all kinds of because I'm saying good things, like, because it's a I wasn't going to win, I wasn't going to lose, because whatever I said was always going to be wrong.
Yeah,
it's an issue, So at the end, I say, I want to get a parting shot for y'all, though. Senior chief is a WOG. Oh, you want to talk about a bunch of people that went off, and the dirtiest look I got from her, because she was an East Coast sailor, so she had never crossed the equator.
Oh, okay. So she hadn't been initiated.
Oh, and I made sure the mess knew that she was a WOG. Oh, I tell you what, I had a bunch of people come up and give me high fives. Hey, that's good. That's good. You did a good. Man, I'm going to get her. I get payback.
Yeah.
But hey, she was a champ. She went through. It was really cool. But the cameras sometimes were cool. Sometimes we're in the way. And sometimes the cameras got you in trouble. I kind of got in a little trouble. Well, what happened was after I got pinned, right? I'd been up for 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
15 minutes nap there. I was getting beat up. Not literally beat up, but just, run through the ringer. Well, so it's my first night as a chief, so I still had to, we got pinned at everything about 7:15 in the morning, so I went to take a nap, 8. Then I came up to work, because I still got to work, I was the captain chief. I still had to be there.
Yeah.
So it was in between recoveries. So I sat back a little bit. I sat back on the watch officer's chair, because the ensign went to go get something to eat or something. So I'm sitting back, man. I dozed off. I fell asleep. I'm going to lie. I dozed off, fell asleep, and an aircraft checks in. So I get up right away. As soon as I hear check in, I get up and start getting everything ready. Everything. Well, the camera crew's in there because I'm mic'd up and they're filming. Well, the footage goes to the PAO. Doesn't the PAO tell the skipper that I need to be written up for sleeping on duty?
Oh, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He tried to use it. He tried to get me in trouble, use it up to sleeping on duty, that I was asleep on duty. That they caught me on film sleeping, and I was sitting there on watch with a headset in my ear and everything else, But the one thing that, I got a few names for the guy, but for the one thing you need to understand, we always had a headset on. We always had it in our ear,
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah, even if you weren't on duty, you were monitoring the frequency and just.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put it on speaker, dummy. I just got it in my ear, and I got up and I did what I needed to do, and well, I got back to my air ops officer, who's Commander Prince Teuscher, man, good guy, and then the OPSO was awesome, and Skipper really cool, and it got back, and he tried to hammer me. He tried to take me to mast.
Wow.
For this, but like I said, I had a good chain of command. So my air ops officer, they stood up and said, "Are you crazy? He didn't miss a beat. We didn't hear nothing. Nothing went wrong, And that's when they tried to. He'd just been up for 48 hours. This is his first watch here back. He never missed. I never missed. I was always on watch. I ever did that. He goes, so he falls asleep for 3 minutes in between recoveries. And so he hadn't shown it to the skipper. He'd only shown it to the XO. Well, the OPSO, called XO and skipper right away about it, and it got squashed, But this is where, the film crew, it kind of hurt because here you got somebody who's out to, he's a lieutenant. I think he'd been in the Navy for like 10 minutes, and he's gonna tell me that, he's gonna say that, and it was just kind of, so that's where the film crew it was fun. We got to know him. It was a blast.
Yeah.
You know, I'll forever be in, you know, I'll forever be on tape somewhere. You know, so that was really cool. I get asked about it all the time, and everybody that was on there, you pretty much know everybody, and you pretty much knew everybody that was on it, and you know, the people they went through. But it was a good time. It was a good time. It was. I think that did a lot for the carrier. You know, for everybody in general, to see how we work every day.
Nah, because you know, there's nothing like shipboard life. So we got like 5 minutes. Any thoughts or anything you want to say in regards to your 26-year career in the military?
I had a blast. It was an honor to serve my country. It really was, you know. I wish I could have stayed in for the rest of my life. I really wished I could have, you know. Mm-hmm. But I don't regret any part of being in the Navy. Yes, there were good times and there were bad times, you know, like anything else. But in all, I don't regret a single bit. You know, I spent my entire adult life from the age of 18 to the age of 44 in the military. You know, and I loved every minute of it, Mark. I got to meet a lot of great people. I got to meet you. You know, I had people in Lemoore, you know, that, you know, and people that I still have friendships with it and bond people never went through together. Yeah. You know, whether you were on the ship, whether you were on shore duty, you know, it would still, it's still a bond that I believe is unpenetrable and unbreakable.
No, you're exactly right, man. I mean, as we sit here and talk, I mean, that was like 20 years ago, damn near. I mean, I was in Lemoore from 97 to 2000, and we haven't talked in a while, and it's like, hey, time never went by as we talk, and you know, about talking about the experiences, and for me, it was one of the best decisions I made in my life. I can say honestly say that.
Definitely, you know, and now I love technology now. I really do. You know, it was hard to get through the change, but Facebook, you know, I've got to see, you know, your career flourish in music, you know, and Jared Bishop the same way he got, you know, and his music thing going on too. So it got me. I'm able to reconnect with everybody else, you know, and we could talk. You know, I say, hey, see something on your Facebook page or something. You know, it's really cool. You know, we can touch base there. You know, So I like it because it lets us reconnect and brings back a lot of very, very fond memories.
Yeah. So hey, Mike, thanks, man. Thanks for your service. Hey, thanks for being a cool supervisor. The stories I remember you told us in the break room in Lemoore. And hey, thank you for taking the time to be on Sea Stories. Definitely gave us a lot of good stories in your great 26-year career. And any last words you want to say before we sign off?
No, it was my pleasure, and thank you. I hope there's more out there that'll come and do the same thing. It gives us all old guys, all vets, and active to a way to still be connected with each other and understand each other.
So there you go. Sea Stories, another great episode with retired Senior Chief Mike Garcia here on Sea Stories. Mark and Mike signing off.